it's David Swinowski here with Rubble Road Soapstone Kits, and today we're gonna have some fun carving our new shape, the skull. So come on in here and see how we shape this stone today. Okay, thanks for joining me with the skull. We're gonna do a little bit of pencil work on here, kind of give us a little rough idea of where we're gonna do our main carving. Where that little peak is, little ridge here, this is the nose ridge. So I do like to kind of carve into the upper section and really kind of create that eyebrow ridge. And I'll carve that all the way back, all the way across, so that where the nose ridge, the hollow, I'm going to hollow out a section in here, roughly in the center. And then my eye sockets are going to be just off to the side. And they kind of go, you know, not to the middle of the nose cavity, but of the nasal cavity, but they do go a little bit lower than just the top. So they do kind of mix into each other across this middle section. So you do want to be aware of that to begin with. Give yourself a general idea of where each of those holes is going to be. I want to narrow the bottom of the jaw as well. So I want to get rid of a bunch of that. And then, you know, the teeth line, roughly here, you know, if you kind of divide it into a lower and an upper section, you know, a little bit lower than the halfway mark across, that's probably where the middle of the teeth are going to be, with that nose cavity in the middle. So on the side, we do have to get rid of the extra stone for the eye sockets to kind of help bring that nose section out in the center. So I do have my bin with some water here to help trap all that dust. While it is going to add a little bit of time to your carving, it's really going to help it when cleanup time arrives at the end, especially if you're indoors. So I'm going to use the rasp. So I've got the flat rasp with the domed or curved top, and then it goes to a point. Really good tool to use, very helpful in a lot of different aspects of carving. You can use it for a multitude of different reasons. You're going to find it's mostly that pushing back and forth, slight angle to the side. And the reason is the teeth, they're in stripes. So if I'm going just side to side, it's not really that effective. But if I'm going back and forth, it's going to be a lot more effective. You're really going to feel those teeth working effectively. And, you know, just enough water to be able to dip and rinse the piece of soapstone. And that's a stone that gets its name from that texture that it has. You really feel more in its dry state. When it's wet, it's not as slippery. Your rasp is also going to fill up with dust, making it less effective. Constantly rinsing. I do a lot of rinsing. So that's the flat side. That's great for just kind of flattening that front face. If I want to dig into there, I'll turn it over and use that curved side. And that curved side is really going to really chew into that stone. We also want to make sure we're going to be generating and creating that eyebrow ridge as well. And we kind of want to do that where that little peak of that nose is, right here. We're going to grind a little stone further back. There you go. Use the flat side to generate or get that groove started. And where the peak comes out, where the very point of that ridge is, I'm actually going to go a little bit higher up. I don't want it right on the ridge. I want to carve or hollow out the cavity of the nose further back into the stone. But to really be able to make it pop, we have to carve that forehead back a little bit. And this is also going to help us when it comes to making the eye sockets as well. Kind of check my depth. Try and make sure I'm working consistently all the way across. And I'm using that flat, mostly the edge, to really carve in on the surface of that rock as I'm pushing away. And it is a metamorphic rock, so if you do a number of soapstone carvings, you're going to find that they're not all exactly the same. You're going to find a variance or variation in that hardness. So if it's going to be easier to carve, it just means it's going to be easier to carve for you. But if it's a harder stone, when it comes time to polish this rock, you should find that a harder stone actually takes a better polish. So one of the things that I enjoy about having a harder piece of soapstone is that it's going to be able to polish up a little bit better for me. I'll get a better shine on it. But the denser the stone is as well, the more fine detail you can actually carve on that stone as well. But it will take more effort for sure. And we know teeth are coming out to about there. If we don't want that pencil to wear away or rub off too much, we can actually just kind of use the corner or the edge of your rasp, carve some of those detailed pattern lines into the stone, so we know the teeth are going to be roughly around there. When it comes time. But we want to make sure we're bringing out these eye sockets. I'm just going to go with a general skull, personally, like a human skull. This is where you can have a lot of fun. You could carve larger eye sockets. This is where you could have a lot of fun with this shape, in my opinion. Do some large oval eyes. You could even put like a patch over one and then hollow out the other one, do like a pirate kind of a skull. I think it's a really fun shape. I think it has some options when it comes to carving it. And I think that's one of the fun things about it. I'm just going to do a general, normal skull today. Making sure I'm not poking myself with the point of this rasp. This one's feeling kind of soft, but really consistent. Feeling not bad. All the little black spots that we can see in here, this is actually iron content that's in the stone. And anytime there's like a little crack or a blemish in the stone or a fracture in the rock, the iron content can actually oxidize and rust that, giving it that brownish color. But the second you carve that away, it's just like the rest of the stone. The iron can be quite gritty when it's really fine sometimes, but this one's feeling pretty decent. You can add a lot of character to your stone. You can occasionally get little pieces of pyrite hiding in here as well, which is pretty neat. Just gonna narrow the bottom of the jaw right now. So you can see where the dust is. That's where I'm carving right now. I'm trying my best not to carve into anything else just yet, because we will be rounding off a bunch of stone here to round off the skull. So we will be getting rid of a lot of stone there, but I'm gonna work on the bottom jaw first, get the bottom close to where I want it. kind of scribe out where I think I'm going to put the eye sockets. I'm going to try my best to be symmetrical. I could break out a measuring device if I really wanted to be exact on that, but I'm not going to be that particular about it. As long as you see dust, you know you're getting rid of that stone. Just every once in a while. Make sure you give everything a rinse. Trap that dust down in the water. You can even hold it like a pen or a pencil if you want to work on smaller, more concentrated areas. When it comes to symmetry, if you have one side where you like it and you're trying to match up the other side, I would suggest going larger to start. Don't try and get it exact, because you can always bring it down to scale. Instead of trying to get it exact, if you make it too small, then you have to bring the other side down, and that could change your carving a little bit more than you originally intended. So I do try, if I'm going for the symmetrical aspect of it, I go a little larger on the opposing side first, and then I bring it down. Try and match it up. So we're getting rid of all this stone in behind here. Running that whole part right off. So dig that jawline in right now as well. Carving off pretty consistently there, pretty evenly. Feels good. Should polish up really nicely too. That consistency. That's where the raw water will really be important. I do all my finishing sanding with water. Fingers close to the end, so I really kind of know where the end of that rasp is. It's not just off and never land there. Every once in a while, I just make sure I give my rasp a good cleaning. Make sure all those gritty teeth are out. Being pretty aggressive right now. I just know I want to get rid of this stone. I know I want to make that bottom jaw a little bit narrower, so. Like I said, I'll just bring that cheekbone up till it matches. And closer. Got a good grip on this stone too. Teeth's another aspect of this. You could have fun. You can do human teeth. You can do some vampire teeth on there if you want to. Make them really gnarly if you want. Be imaginative. Try some different stuff. Have some fun. Have to move the carving away from me a little bit when I'm trying to line stuff up. Really close. I think I'll really start to round the skull off here pretty soon. Before I really do my work on those eye sockets. I'm going to try and leave a bunch of the stone around where I'm going to be putting the eye sockets. I'm going to leave most of this stone intact. I'm actually going to just round off the skull in behind that area. I'm also going to kind of leave a bunch of extra stone on the front here as well. Slow this down. Turn the rasp over, use that curved edge. The bowed side. Really gonna help you dig in there. Not really sure what's going on, so I'll give it a rinse. Go right back to it. There's the flatter side again. I'm going to use that flat side to really round off Square edges. Really working on those corners. Still lots to get rid of. All the way around. All the way around. Round off the whole back edge. Gonna see me rocking the stone back and forth as I'm working on those edges, on those corners. Just kind of keep my rasp stationary, just moving back and forth. Planting my rasp hand right now. Always trying to work away from myself. Poke myself in the hand enough times. Make sure I get into every corner, every nook and cranny right now. That way when it comes to sanding, I know if my rasp has been in there and done some work, I know it's going to be easier to get the sandpaper in there to help get rid of some of that tooling mark, right? Easier to do it with the rasp than it is with the sandpaper. Although sometimes if it's a really, really tight space and I just don't want to put a rasp in there, if the rasp is too big, I'll just fold my sandpaper up and just pull it through there a number of times to make sure I'm at least sanding that area. You can even use your rasp, put it in the area where you want, and use your, as I'm holding it, I'm going to use my other thumb, and just use it to help guide my rasp in here and just bulldoze that stone out of the way. Rounding this off, but also going to be doing more of it on these edges as well, right? on both sides. Using the flat side of my rasp to really carve across these square blocky edges, round them off. And I'm really going to be bringing in the temples on the front here. I'm really going to be bringing the front end of the skull in. I'll leave the back side of it a little bit wider, but I'm going to bring the temples in to really help these eye sockets, once we get them going here, to really help flare those out, really help add a little extra depth on this piece. I'd love to see some different eye socket styles. If you do get a skull kit and try some different eye socket designs, Cyclops, you know, you can have some real fun with this. I'd love to see it. Tag us in any posts that you make with this shape. Love to see what you've done. To really round off the back of the skull, I do have to narrow the bottom jaw a fair bit to kind of scale it down and let it look proportional when I do that. Watching that dust fly. And that rust boat. I don't want to make that bottom jaw too narrow though, because when it kind of sits down, if the bottom jaw is too narrow, it will be a little bit wobbly. And I don't want to do that. Really bringing the temple area in. Leaving some big eye sockets on there for now. I'll bring those down after I've actually started hollowing out, because I am going to start hollowing out the areas on either side here eventually, and then also in the nasal cavity here too. I'm going to literally use the point of the rasp and just kind of dig that out. That's going to be tedious and time consuming, so I'm going to get the other stuff done first. I'm not exactly sure where those eye sockets are going to be just yet until I round everything off. So kind of have to get this other stuff done. And that's going to determine where I'm actually going to do my hollowing out. Gritty iron hiding in this little corner right now. Trying to make sure I've really got a firm grip on the rock here the entire time, even though I'm moving it around. Fits nicely in my hand, so it's pretty easy to keep a secure handle on this stone. Coming together, right? Takes a bit of time. You do a little bit of removal. Find about an hour in any of the medium or large carvings before I really start to see a difference in the shape that I'm working on. And a lot of customers ask me about our kits and how long they take. So we have the smalls and the medium sizes for our general kits. Smalls, you're usually looking at about an hour, hour and a half. And then for our, that's to completion, by the way. And then for our medium kits, I typically say that you should look at spending 2 hours and up on that, depending on what shape you purchased and how detailed you want to get on that carving. But also some of them are easier and some are harder as well. So a duck or a loon is going to be a lot easier than the skull or the bison. So general shape you pick is also going to determine how much time you're going to spend on that as well. So we do have some different hardnesses as well. Challenges. But I do like the skull because you can play around with the different kind of eyes. You know, you could put, no reason you couldn't put 2 noses on this thing too if you really wanted to. But the teeth as well, you know, it doesn't have to be a human skull, just in that general shape that we know of. But, you know, Cyclops has some fun with the teeth on this one. If you wanted to, you could even just get rid of the bottom part of the jaw and just have the upper teeth. Kind of go with Day of the Dead. Kind of a Mexican theme if you wanted to. Keeping an eye on it for symmetry here and there, stopping, not working too long in one spot. A little bit of a ridge along the side here. I should probably Google what that is anatomically, but who's got time for that? really bringing that eye socket out, right? Really want to make that pop. Work around it really as I'm kind of rounding off the rest of the skull, which is going to make it pop. Could even hollow out in behind the jaw here if you wanted as well. But I'm going to leave mine pretty solid. I just kind of want that counter weight, or the weight to it, to kind of help keep the front of the skull down as it's sitting when I'm finished. If I hollow it out, it might make it a little bit light. It might be a little bit back heavy. Might want to tilt further back. A hard time seeing where I'm going, what I'm doing, so I'll rinse that off. Really hollowing it out in here on both sides, right? Round those edges off. Get rid of those flat spots. Getting close to having it fully rounded. My rasp marks are getting closer and closer together. So I know I'm starting to kind of wear down that flat section that's on the back there. Flat part across this way. Getting smaller, which is good. I'm getting rounder and rounder, which is what I want. Try and even that out. Got some snow goggles on right now. Because I'm severely left-handed. Just kind of forced to work on this side in an awkward position to try and match it up. bit gritty in this section. I can kind of feel that iron a little bit more. Bit lighter green, or a bit lighter in color towards the front, and a little bit darker towards the back, so it's a little bit more spotted. But that's all right. A bulge on this side, so bring that down. Yeah. Yep. Get rid of that stone. Looking at it from multiple angles. Getting close to where I'm going to start to hollow out those eye sockets. But I still want to round this out just a little bit more. I want to get rid of a little bit more stone on here just yet. Top of the teeth are probably going to start somewhere around there. And the bottoms. Good to have a kind of a general idea where they're going to go. Hollow out a bunch of stone in here. Nasal cavity. I'm just going to use the point of this rasp and just bulldoze, get rid of as much of this rock as I can. Trying not to break through and chunk it out, because it will just tear right out the side. So I do have to be aware of that. Again, this is where you can hold it in place and then use your opposing thumb to kind of like help you just kind of bulldoze. Just like I did that. All right. If I'm going to glue it, I would stop and do that now. Maybe. I'll see how it fits. Well, it took me a second, but I found that little piece of stone that flaked off. That is part of the nose, and I do think I'm going to glue that. I do think I want to glue that in place. I think I need that little part. I could just lower the rest of the face back and then recreate that, but you know what? I think I want to keep it, so I'm going to let this dry. I'm just going to use a super glue and glue that. Well, it took me a second, but I found that little piece of stone that flaked off. It is part of the nose, and I do think I'm going to glue that. I do think I want to glue that in place. I think I need that little part. I could just lower the rest of the face back and then recreate that, but you know what? I think I want to keep it, so I'm going to let this dry. I'm just going to use a super glue and glue that. All right, carving's now dry. It's kind of back to that grayish dull look. It's perfect. Tiny little bit that I chipped off. I just think I want it on here right now. Even if I carve it or sand it away, I just want that aspect of it right now, so I'm willing to take the time. Dry it, glue it. Just a basic super glue, nothing fancy. So now that the glue's, as it was kind of drying, I did actually scrape the outside here and just mix some of that dust in along the edge where it was cracked. That'll also help it dry out a little bit faster as well. No longer really sticky, so I can get back to it. I'll just work on some other parts here right now while that continues to kind of set a little bit more. Probably work. Downward motion now from there. Just to lessen the risk of me flaking that off again. Looking more at the symmetry right now. We'll also be rounding off the front of the jaw. Kind of narrow that in a little bit more. If you want, you can always mark a center line on that if you wanted to. If it helps you with your symmetry aspect. Even though that piece that I glued back on was small, I still felt like I kind of needed to leave that piece out, put it back on there, even though it took time away from carving. But you know, it's not a race anyway, so it's going to take time, no matter what you're working on. Start to bring these eye sockets down a little bit more, unless you're going big. Just using that edge of this rasp, just chewing right into that rock. Bit more rounding. Yeah, I got quite a bit of stone in here. I'll kind of flare out your little socket. So it kind of draws into the upper jaw. And then we'll kind of create the lower jaw a little bit narrower to kind of make that top jaw stick out a little bit. Yeah. All right. bunch of that top has to come in. If you want, you can always like scribe kind of where you're going. What you want to keep on that stone. A little bit of a lighter section on the side here. And that's probably going to be softer than this darker section. Usually with the soapstone, the darker it is, it tends to be a little bit harder. Whether it's density or iron content, they both will change it up a little bit. A little gritty right there. Bunch of iron in there. Little pocket. That's all right. That upper jaw, upper teeth, and then the lower. We've also got like that wider part. Jaw going through about there. Gonna really put in the bottom jaw lines pretty deep. Simply because I'm gonna be narrowing that anyway and thinning that down a little bit more to kind of make the top part, upper jaw, protrude a little bit. Start lightly. Pretty close. Make one little mistake, don't worry too much about it. Just try not to make too many times. Pretty close.
Music licensing reimagined.
Use my opposing thumb, opposing hand thumb, right hand. Help me get those L's in there.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
So these are going to be my bottom teeth. This is going to be the jaw. And I'm going to have my upper teeth right around here.
Music licensing reimagined.
One's about here.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
And if they're not perfect, I'm not too worried about it. Some of the concentration of iron is going to throw me off point a little bit just because of the inconsistencies in the stone with the mineral inclusions in there. You're going to get that naturally, so just work around that with it, you know.
Music licensing reimagined.
So now I can kind of actually carve in that bottom jaw. Not a lot, a little bit, right? The top will be going as well, but a very
Artlist.io.
blocky jaw on this one.
Music licensing reimagined.
primarily using the flat side of my rasp right now.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Can always look at the bottom. See how uniform that shape's going to be, right? That'll help you visually.
Artlist.io. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Grip on there.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Put my teeth lines back in again.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. licensing reimagined.
Just using that edge.
Artlist.io.
Finding a little bitey by the point, but I don't want to dig it too deep because it is a fairly soft stone. So the iron content is making it a little bit unpredictable, but that's all right.
Artlist.io. 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 Artlist.io.
Bring these eyes back.
Artlist.io. Artlist.io.
Trying to leave the nose area, nasal cavity area. I gotta leave a little bit of a
Artlist.io.
bone section there. Can't just grind all that away. As long as I see dust, I know I'm carving it, so. Use that dome side when we're really aggressive, get rid of a bunch of stone. Dig in there. Slowly refining these eye sockets, basically. Start creating that void right now. Trying my best to work towards the center. It doesn't matter if that stone kind of flakes out, but if I push too hard on the edges here, I can do the same thing I did with the nose earlier. I'll have to do a little bit more gluing, so try to be a little careful right now. I just hollow this out a bit. A lot of rinsing right now. Try and match it up here. I just have to kind of hold it this way for me to see it better, so that's what I'll do. Let's bulldoze it nicely. A little gritty up in the corner of the eye. Again, trying to work it towards the center, so I'm less likely to flake out chunk. Oops. Move it around, check it from different angles. All right. coming together. It's getting into more of that refining process right now, so rounding off those front teeth. Just finding an edge that'll dig for me right now to finish up some of the final lines. As I'm working away, I'm just kind of looking at how everything's kind of coming together. It's all centering up. I'm gonna start drawing those teeth in here pretty soon. All right, I'm gonna start drawing in these teeth. Well, let's see how it lines up first. Yeah. A little wonky, but Center it up both for top and bottom pretty much. I kind of scribe lightly just to get the teeth started. I don't want too many teeth because I don't want to be making too many of these particular cuts. Kind of lightly going back and forth here. Just trying to even it up with the other side right now. And you don't want to do these too deep. The deeper you go, the more likely you are to just kind of angle it and flake one of them out. Especially if there's a number of inclusions in there, which I do have in this one. That'll work. Now I'll start to work on the upper teeth. Already have that middle one. I'll make the main front teeth a fair bit wider. Rounding off those corners a little bit. Makes a difference. I'm just going to split this one right in the middle. Yeah, these are working out okay. So yeah, I'm gonna round off those corners on the bottom. Jaw side of the teeth. And if I ended up flaking one and chunking one, if it wasn't really gluable, I'd probably just remove the entire tooth and then hollow it out a little bit more so like it had a missing tooth. So close. Be patient right now. So the teeth are close enough. I'll probably actually just finish those up with the sandpaper because if I get too aggressive with this rasp, I feel like I'm going to mess those teeth up even more. I like where they're at right now, so I'm going to just leave that and get ready to finish them up with the sanding stages. I still have a little bit of work to do on the rest of the skull here anyway, so I'm just going to get back to that. Getting rid of any flat spots that I kind of see on the skull itself. I think I should still get rid of some more stone in here. Close to ready for sanding on this. So close. Just looking for any lumps right now that kind of stick out and bug me. That's pretty much it. And that's just caused more by little hard pockets in the rock right now. That's what that's from, for the most part. I like it. Maybe a little flat there. I have to bring that forehead part down a little bit.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io.
Get rid of that.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Artlist.io.
Be careful, I don't want to break that orbital wall. When to stop carving? That's a big question, right? I think it's whenever you feel
Licensing reimagined.
content. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to make anything too small because you are going to get rid of some more stone once you start sanding and smoothing it out. So it is going to get a little bit smaller still.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
And call it. I'm pretty happy with that. I like that. Break out the sandpaper. Smooth this out, finish it up, and get it ready for oil. All right, so now that the carving is where I want it to be, I'm going to use the sanding pack and finish this up. Inside that sanding pack, you do have some general instructions in there. There is that finishing oil. We're not going to need that just yet, so I'm going to set that off to the side. There should be 3 pieces of sandpaper in there. We're going to start off with that 220 grit, go to the 320, and then finish up with that 600 grit. So the biggest number is going to be last. Starting with that 220, I use water for everything, so we're going to get that wet. This is going to help make that sandpaper a little bit more pliable as well, and just really help it kind of form to the shape that we're working on. I do find the sanding stages are very important to use the water with. If you wanted to kind of swap out your water and kind of start with some fresh water, you know, if you can, do that. With the first sanding stage, what you really want to do is make sure that you're getting a consistent texture left on your stone. So I want to try and get rid of all these little scratches that I've left behind with the rasps, and I'm just looking to kind of start to smooth it out. I'm not going to get it perfectly smooth with this first sanding stage. I'm going to do a lot of rinsing, keep this sandpaper nice and clear, get as much of that dust out of there as I can. You can fold up this second sandpaper as well, tuck it into those hard to reach corners. Just really try and do the best job possible. Be as thorough as you can. It's really what the first stage is all about. Lots of rinsing. Because it will clog up pretty quick. And if you do a good job with sandpaper number 1, the second sanding stage is going to be a little bit faster, and I actually find sandpaper number 3, the 600 grit, is actually the fastest step. It's just a quick once over with that with the last one, sorry. All the hard work is done with 1 in the sanding. Kind of smooth it out with 2, and then glass it up with number 3. I use my thumb quite a bit, pushing my sandpaper around. I'm going to do my best to not rub my soapstone on the bottom of this bin, simply because with the little iron content that was in here before, I could possibly actually scratch this carving up a little bit just by rubbing it on the bottom of that bin. I just really want to make sure I'm getting rid of all these little scratches here. I want to make sure it's nice, consistent. And if you want to fold your sandpaper up multiple times, go right ahead.
Music licensing reimagined.
And you will be getting rid of a little bit of a layer of that stone. So that's why I kind of get my stone close to where I want it to be with the rasp, and then I'll finish it up with this sandpaper. Because it will still get rid of a little bit of a layer of stone. Not nearly as aggressive as that rasp is, but still will get rid of a little bit of rock there. Really starting to see these colors come out, which I like. That's where the sanding's great. You know, we could get a couple general ideas as to the color and some of the patterning in the stone while we were carving it with the water, but you really do see it start to pop when you start sanding. That's what really brings out those colors. Sometimes you can get some feldspars in this stone as well, little glitter spots. I'll find if I do have those. I typically don't see those until the second or third sandpaper. You know, sometimes it's usually on the last one where they kind of show up, but if you've worked with the stone enough, you might recognize it before you even polish it. And another reason I do a lot of rinsing as well is because of some of that iron content. As we're scrubbing it right now, we could actually dislodge some of those little pieces of iron. And where the iron is heavy, if you're not rinsing consistently, if you're scrubbing that iron across that surface, it will scratch the stone as well. So that's another reason I do a considerable amount of rinsing during the sanding stages.
Music licensing reimagined.
I'll fold it up multiple times. So I can tuck it into these little smaller areas.
Music licensing reimagined.
And the smoother and less scratches you want, the more, and at the end of your carving, the more consistent you need to be right now. If you don't mind a couple little blemishes here and there, you know, then you don't need to be really picky with sandpaper number one, but the better you want that final finish to be, the more you have to be consistent with this first one.
Music licensing.
This is where I can kind of feel that iron content. You know, it's a little bit grittier on the paper than it is on the rasp. But just look all the character it kind of gives that stone, right? Which I think is pretty cool.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
trying to get that top ridge line above the teeth, but underneath the nose. You're gonna find these little corners are the toughest spots to get into. Just try your best. Just try and be persistent. If you want to, you can always fold your sandpaper up multiple times, but then fold it again so that this corner has nothing but grit on there. So everywhere you're touching, it's going to be actually sanding it. So those are really good for those 90-degree corners to really get in there and do a really good job sanding in those really tight spots.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Just work slowly. Some of those areas where you really want to be really thorough. See just how much I use my thumb.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Just trying to be thorough as much as I can, looking for any deeper scratches that I don't want. I have a little bit of feldspar hiding up in there, which is fun.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
And if I didn't do any carving on there, you might notice some little gray stripes on your stone. Those are tooling marks from the bandsaw that we used to cut these out. Make sure you're getting rid of those tooling marks. They will stop the natural colors from coming through. So I always try and make sure I get rid of the tooling marks at the very least.
Music licensing reimagined.
And I'm going to leave the inside of the eye sockets textured, so I'm not going to worry about sanding inside the nasal cavity or the eye sockets. I'm just going to leave those the way they are, but sand around them.
Artlist.io.
I don't always make every single carving perfectly smooth, but Wherever I do want it to be smooth, I have to be really, really consistent, really persistent with the sandpaper, and just try and do the best with the first stage so that it's easier
Music licensing.
as I get to the finer and smoother sanding stages.
Artlist
I'm kind of wearing out the grit on the sandpaper on this side, so I'll just open it up, refold it, get some of that grit going again. Just continue.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist IO.
You're gonna find that rinsing is really gonna help your sandpaper be way more effective as well.
Music licensing reimagined. Artlist IO. Music licensing reimagined.
I'm pretty close to finish with the first stage. Some of these little smaller, tinier scratches, I should be getting rid of those with this second sandpaper. I just wanted to make sure most of my really aggressive tooling marks were gone with sandpaper number 1. Done with the first one. Now I'm going to move on to sandpaper number 2, which is the 320 grit. Again, going to get that wet. Help make that sandpaper more pliable. And all over one more time. Do this again, fold it up. And if you find you're having like little scratched areas that were kind of problematic with that first one, you might want to start there with sandpaper number 2. Use that sandpaper while it's fresh in those harder areas, problem areas. And you should be getting rid of all the scratches that you do not want to see before sandpaper number 3. That last sanding stage is not going to get rid of any scratches for you. All it's going to do is just smooth that existing surface that you have. So all the scratches you don't want should be gone before sandpaper 3. I'm not really sanding my teeth either. I don't mind if they're a little bit textured, a little bit rough looking. I'm okay with that. And the one advantage with soapstone over wood is I don't have to worry about a grain. I can sand in any direction right now I want. I don't have to worry about raising any grain or separating any fibers. Which definitely makes the sanding easier. Again, just being as thorough as I was with the first one. All right. I think almost done with 2 here. Feeling pretty good. Like it. I'll start with sandpaper number 3. So the last sandpaper, 600 grit, biggest numbers going last. Every single one of these is getting it wet today. So this should be the quickest one. Just a quick once over. Everywhere. And this should be done. You might think, oh, I'll just spend more time with sandpaper number 3 and just make my carving ultra smooth. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Your carving is only going to get to a certain degree of smoothness based on 2 main factors. The first one is how hard your stone is. The harder your stone is, the better a polish it will take. And then the second main factor is how consistent were you with those first 2 stages. The better job you did with 1, the easier it was for 2 to do its job to smooth that surface, and then this third one just glasses it right up. So it's only going to go so far. It's only going to do so much. Roll this up, tuck it into those corners. And I do recommend for sandpaper 3, take your time, right? It's easy to get excited and want to rush through it, but you spent this much time carving it already. Just finish strong, right? Once I'm finished with all 3 sanding stages, I'm going to rinse this carving in clean water. I'm going to allow it to dry, and then I'm going to oil it with that finishing oil that was in the sanding pack. I typically let the carving dry overnight, simply because those softer pieces of soapstone, they're like a sponge. They can really soak up the water when you're carving, so it takes a while for that water to really kind of dry out. Nice sunny window outside, open air, really well as well. But I do give it a really good rinse, make sure there's none of this dusty water on there. Really get into the little nooks and crannies, making sure I'm getting any little bits of dust that may be on my carving out. I want a very clean surface when I actually go to do the oil. Not scrubbing the bottom of my bin. It's feeling pretty good. I'll fold it the other way here. Super close, super close. Just feeling. I think it feels pretty good. I think I'm good. I like it the way it is. I'm gonna go rinse this really well, dry it off, and get it ready for the oiling. All right, the skull's all dry. Feels nice. So smooth. Love that feel. We're gonna use this tongue oil now. We're gonna seal it up. I do like to start on the very bottom of my carving so that way when I actually set it up, I can oil the rest of it as it just kind of sits in place. So in those sanding packs, it's a Q-tip, small vial of tongue oil. Pop that. And then just use that Q-tip like a paintbrush. Dip it in there a little bit. Make sure you're getting all those little nooks and crannies, right? And just paint this stone with the oil everywhere. And watch those colors pop. Just like sandpaper number 3 did. And if you can actually warm up your stone a little bit, like in the sun, or even like on your stove, just keep it on low. Just make sure that when you actually pick it up, you've got some mitts on or something, because the stone will hold that heat. So it could be pretty warm and toasty when you pick it up. And this will actually just help kind of thin that oil out and just really make it spread around a little bit more evenly. So now that that bottom section is done, I'm gonna move this around. And just get everywhere else right now. And I do find with some of the softer soapstones, they will drink up this first coat. And there should be enough for 2 coats in that little vial. But for the harder rocks, 1 coat will be enough. I'll let this oil sit for about 2 hours. And I'm just gonna wipe it off with the same paper towel that I have it sitting on. I don't want the oil to pool up in any corners. I don't want it to start to coagulate anywhere. I just want it to kind of penetrate the stone for a little bit. And then just kind of bring those colors out and seal it out. Just make everything pop, you know? Moving it around so that I know I'm getting everywhere. Got it pretty well lit here so I can see quite well. All around those chompers too. Make sure I get all the way in those eye sockets. The nose as well. Just kind of push it in there. Checking underneath those eye socket ridges, just making sure I'm being as liberal as I can. With this oil, I really want to seal it everywhere. Looking for any little spots I may have missed. I think I got them all. Fantastic. I'm gonna let that soak for about 2 hours, and then I'm gonna wipe all that oil off. All right. I hope you had a lot of fun carving this skull like I did. I find it's a really enjoyable piece, has a lot of options in it. I would love to see you tag us in some of your videos and some of your photos that you have with this shape. We'd love to see them here at Rubble Road Soapstone Kits. I'm David Skonowski. Thank you very much.